We'll turn our attention now to the major political events that shaped 2025. I'm joined in the studio by public affairs analyst Bolanle Olugbani. Mr. Olugbani, Happy New Year to you and thank you for joining us.
Happy New Year to you too, thank you.
So it's going to go down in the history that you're the first guest on TVC News at 7 in 2026. What happened on the last day? We saw ADC officially getting perhaps one of the most sensational presidential candidates in 2023, Peter Obi, and a few other southeastern politicians officially joined the ADC. What does this say about opposition strategy and also the confidence of the ruling party moving ahead to 2027?
I think the opposition in Nigeria has finally faced the reality that a viable platform is the first fundamental step to success in any election. The previous platform of Peter Obi, the Labour Party, is stratified. There are factions. The PDP is virtually a no-go area, having been highly decimated by the defection of governors, and at this point in time, also having a faction. So the only possible or viable alternative is a new platform, which the ADC appears to present, and the opportunity to start on a new footing. You know that we've had some APC stakeholders already insinuating that Peter Obi could be Atiku's running mate in 2027. When you look at the figures, 8 million for Bola Ahmed Tinubu in 2023, about 13 million for both Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi. Do you think that the conversation we had about a one-party state is now being challenged if these two individuals decide to run together? Well, I think that they are the only possibility of a viable opposition in the next elections. I also think that reality and the fact that they have a political career to actualize is making what would appear strange bedfellows to cohabit under a new platform. I think that the way it is going, they still have a lot of work to do because the odds against them are highly formidable. And I think that in the situation that they find themselves, there's no other alternative than to compromise for any iota of success to come out in this their new adventure. We saw a massive move of governors to the APC last year. If you add Taraba, which has indefinitely postponed its move, perhaps we'll see that happen in January. APC now has about 28 governors. Opposition calls it coercion, they call it manipulation, they say it is a threat to multi-party democracy. APC on the other side is saying, you know what, it's a reflection of confidence in the APC. Which is it? I think first and foremost, what is happening now is what the Constitution guarantees. Freedom of association. It allows every Nigerian to be a member of any labor union, association, or even a political party of his choice to protect his interests. And so, politicians being who they are, I don't want to be casting aspersion on anybody, but they are essentially selfish about their careers and their ambitions. And so, when they make their calculations, look at the viability of their candidacy and the possibility of a larger platform to be able to actualize their ambition, it appears that the ruling party, the party with control of the center, appears to be the most viable option. But do you think it's good for our democracy that these parties have lost their ideology when politics comes up? It is easy for them to move from one party to the other. This is a constant criticism of our Nigerian democracy because it is not ideologically based. It is about pragmatism, it is about opportunity, and where the politician who seeks to contest thinks that his nest will be best feathered. So there are no laws that prevent them from doing so. But if there were laws, perhaps amendment of the Electoral Act, amendment of the Constitution that says once you defect, you lose your position, I think the idea that ideology, principle, and the moral rectitude that politicians should possess or should imbibe would not be a factor in determining whether they want to move or not. One of the biggest developments last year is the declaration of emergency rule in Rivers State. It was unprecedented in its scope. Critics say it crossed the constitutional red line, but we've also seen the Supreme Court now uphold the president's powers. Supporters of that move say it saved the state from ultimate collapse, that the governor was eventually going to be impeached. Are you comfortable with the precedent this sets ahead of future political crisis? Well, I think it has set in motion an evolving pattern where there appears to be a gray area legally. The Supreme Court, by its recent decision, saying that the parties before it had no locus standi, and thereafter making remarks and comments on a hypothetical situation, appeared to give credence to the actions of the president. But at the same time, the Constitution and the law enabling the president to do or not to declare a state of emergency appears not to be very well fine-tuned. So it's an area where the legislature, particularly the National Assembly, needs to go back and do a thorough job on what the powers of the president are in declaring the state of emergency and what conditions must be satisfied strictly in doing so to safeguard our democracy and to ensure that there's no abuse.
Governor Fubara eventually defected to the APC. How do you respond to to the accusations that this emergency rule perhaps became a political lever rather than a neutral stabilizing tool? And it doesn't seem to have settled the political infightings between him and his godfather.
Well, the godfather has one leg in the PDP and is a member of the Federal Executive Council of Nigeria. So the godfather is in between what would have been the viable opposition party and the current ruling party. Whilst the erstwhile godson, or still the godson, has seen the light and has moved to the current ruling party. I would think that pragmatism has influenced the decision of Governor Fubara, and the godfather must make a decision as to where he ultimately wants to belong to.
There was a political coloration to the designation of Nigeria as a particular country of concern. What we hear from politicians is that it is similar to what happens in pre-election year. And then eventually we saw the US airstrike on Nigeria. Eventually, the federal government said it was a joint operation. Do you think it is political, the kind of insecurity we saw last year? Or government has to sit up and face reality that more still needs to be done?
My opinion is that there are fifth columnists in every situation, organization, or government. There is a kind of synergy between those I would call criminals and some political operatives within the Nigerian space and even in government. The fact that we see a situation where amnesty has been granted to criminals and the criminals can walk out in the open and negotiate with the authorities, ransom has been paid, it has become a business. But I think that the issue of safety of lives and property is not about one religion, and I dare say that the American government's intervention and pressure on the Nigerian government has indeed a political undertone which must be carefully watched, and at a particular point in time Nigeria may need to assert its sovereignty. Because
when you read President Trump's post on Truth Social, there was no place that he referenced cooperating with Nigeria. It was about saying, I said I was going to strike, I've struck, and I'm going to do it again if the killings of Christians do not cease in Nigeria. Is Nigeria setting a precedent where foreign military intervention becomes normalized? And what are the concerns in this regard?
I think the Nigerian government was probably sending the signal to the US government that we're not biased, we're not prejudiced in favor of one religion against the other. And if it's in the interest of curbing criminality, fighting terrorism, we're on board with you. And anything that can be done and needs to be done, we will support. But there is a line that must not be crossed. Nigeria's sovereignty, Nigeria's integrity, and interference in Nigeria's domestic affairs politically is a no-go area. Once that line begins to be crossed, I think the Nigerian government knows what to do.
Public Affairs Analyst Bolanle Olugbani, Happy New Year and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.